This is Larry from deep South Texas. It's the beginning of March and it's time to take another look at the garden. And this is kind of a special date. This marks my 4th year anniversary on YouTube. So I started my channel 4 years ago. And I certainly want to take a moment and thank all my viewers and subscribers for their support in the last 4 years. The channel has grown way in excess of what I ever thought it would. So thank you all. Well, my swallowtail butterfly caterpillars have made a reemergence on my dill this year. So far I've only seen about 6, but in the past I've had scores of these on my dill. So it's really warm today, but the last couple weeks have been fairly cool here in deep South Texas. And in fact, these caterpillars, at least for 2 days, didn't move. They were just stuck on the dill plant, and they didn't eat, they didn't move, they didn't do anything for 2 days. I've never seen that before here in deep South Texas. The eggplants are growing abundantly. My wife wants to take a couple with her today and give them to a friend, so we're going to harvest a couple of these. So I have one fairly nice sized one on this plant. We're going to get that, and then on another plant there's another pretty big one. There it is, a nice eggplant. And there they are, a couple of pretty nice eggplant for this time of year. These plants were started, these were last year's plants, so they've survived the winter just fine. I also have more broccoli I need to harvest. Now this is the second harvest off of these broccoli plants. I didn't think I was going to get any additional, but they came out pretty well. Let's harvest this. So we have some pretty nice heads here. Let's get them off. These are, like I said, these are the second harvest for this broccoli, and may get a third harvest as well. I'm seeing some other shoots growing down here. And there is the broccoli harvest. I'm sure that's enough for at least 2 meals. And again, that is the second picking on these broccoli plants. May get one more meal yet. So I don't think the carrots are ready yet, but let's pull up one and see how they're doing. We'll pretend we're thinning. So yeah, not quite ready, but they all look like they're doing good this year. Now we're into the new part of the garden where I put in the metal raised beds this year and put in drip irrigation. So far the drip irrigation looks like it's doing pretty well, and I have some of my tomatoes in this section of the garden. I planted these tomato seeds on January 2nd, and I think I up-potted them about January 28th and planted them into the garden on February 9th. And they are all doing extremely well. Some of them are beginning to flower, and but I don't have any tomatoes to harvest today, but it shouldn't be too long. So in this part of the garden I have tomatoes, I have some potatoes, and I have just planted green beans, and I will be planting some summer squash in here as well as a couple pepper plants in the barrels. Let's take a closer look. So I have 5 indigos here, looking good. Starting to see some flower buds show up. Next to that I have some beefsteaks. I've got beefsteaks all over. I actually planted a bunch of them because I thought I'd be putting them out early and would lose a few, but the weather prevented me from putting them out. And some Cherokee tomatoes. They're looking good too. And now some red Siberians. These are usually my earliest tomato, but I'm not seeing that this year. And then more beefsteak here. So I didn't have any cherry tomatoes, and my wife likes grape tomatoes, so she went to one of the big box stores and bought a couple. We won't say anything, but you can compare my tomatoes and the store-bought ones. The red Pontiac potatoes are just doing great, wonderful. I also planted some Kennebec potatoes at the same time as the red Pontiacs, and they're being awful slow coming up. Nowhere near as prolific as the red Pontiacs. Usually I'm just seeing one stem come up from each potato that I planted, where the Pontiacs have 2, 3, and 4 stems coming up. So hopefully they'll catch up. About 5 days ago, we planted some bush green beans in this bed, and they are just starting to pop up now. So this part of the garden is all now on, is all done. It's on drip irrigation, and it's looking pretty, and everything seems to be working pretty well. And the other half of the garden is still being watered with overhead watering. I think I have what I need to finish the drip irrigation off over here as well, but that's the next project. Work on that. Here we have some more beefsteak tomatoes. And a couple more varieties. These are celebrities. I used to grow these 30 years ago and did real well. When I first moved to deep south Texas, I tried them and they didn't do so well, so I haven't grown them for a while, but I'm gonna give them another shot, see how they do. And then my favorite big tomato, the Biltmore, and they're all doing well. The onions that I planted from seed are doing good. I was kind of late trying to move them around and even them up. I've got some of them moved, but I think I was a little bit late. We're starting to see some of them begin to bulb up a little bit, which is kind of nice. Lots of onions coming here. Let's take a look at my wife's onions that she purchased, the plants. And here are the onions that were planted, not from seed, but from onion starts. Get them at the big box stores. And they're all looking good, you know. I think every one of them is growing and they're looking healthy. Not quite as far along as mine, but pretty close. And they're looking good. The elephant garlic is looking healthy. And I finally got my leeks transplanted. I was a little bit behind on that. I think I'm a little bit behind on everything because I was working on that new part of the garden, but they look like they survived and they're going to grow. And what about the bananas? Well, the bananas themselves are looking okay, at least on this tree. But the banana leaves didn't survive the cold weather. So I'm not sure if these bananas will mature enough to eat or not, but we're going to give them a shot. The other banana trees, let's take a closer look. So this tree put on some bananas, but they weren't very big before we got the cold weather. Again, their leaves are more or less dead. I don't think those bananas are going to do anything. And the third banana tree had just started to put out a flower stalk when the cold weather hit, and I don't think it's going to do anything. So at least these two trees over here, I'm going to cut them down, and then I'm going to select one of these pups, and the pups all look good for the 2022 banana tree crop. And we'll give it another try and hope for slightly better weather this time around. The aloe vera plant that's in this pot right in the middle of the banana trees didn't suffer from the cold at all. It's looking very healthy. We've started harvesting our cabbage plants. We have more to harvest anytime we can use them. I still got a bunch of bags of cypress mulch to put down. Hopefully that's the last of it for this year. And if I get the drip irrigation installed over here, I shouldn't have to purchase quite so much of that in the future. The next thing to go into the garden are the pepper plants I have here. I think they're ready to go in. I started these at the same time as the tomatoes, but they don't grow quite as fast. But they're ready now. Hopefully I can get them in the ground this week. So a lot of progress in the garden in the last month, and we'll continue to follow along and see how these plants do. I have high hopes at the moment, but then that's what a gardener does. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it that thumbs up. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time.